There are moments in life when the soul feels like a house long abandoned, its windows clouded with dust, its doors stiff from disuse, its rooms echoing with memories of what once was and fears of what may never return. You may have lived in such a season longer than you ever expected. You prayed, you waited, you endured, and still the silence seemed to stretch on. Yet it is often in these quiet, forgotten places that God does his most deliberate work. Restoration does not usually arrive with thunder. It comes like dawn, unannounced yet unstoppable, touching everything it finds. This is the year when you begin to notice that the light is returning. You have perhaps grown accustomed to loss. Not only the obvious losses that can be named and explained, but the quieter ones that slip beneath words, the loss of confidence, the loss of hope that once rose easily in your chest, the loss of innocence about how the world works and how people love. You told yourself that this was simply adulthood, that this dull ache was normal, that faith must learn to live with disappointment. But God has never intended resignation to be the final shape of your heart. He permits winter, yes, but never because he has forgotten spring. Restoration is not merely the return of what was taken. If it were only that, it would be little more than a rewind of pain. True restoration is deeper and more daring. It is the healing of what was damaged, the strengthening of what was weak, and the reordering of what was confused. When God restores, he does not simply hand back old life with its familiar cracks. He breathes new life into the bones and makes them stand again, stronger than before. That is why this year will feel strange to you at first, because you will recognize the blessings, but not the way you carry them. You may have asked yourself in secret why God allowed certain things to break. You tried to be faithful. You tried to do what was right. And yet, relationships fractured, opportunities slipped through your hands, and prayers seemed to fall to the ground unanswered. But faith is not a bargain struck with heaven. It is a trust placed in the character of God. And the character of God is not revealed by how quickly he rescues us from pain, but by how completely he redeems it. Nothing you have suffered has been wasted. Not a single tear fell wit. How being noticed. Not a single night of confusion passed without being counted. This is the year when you will begin to see connections you could not see before. What once appeared as random misfortune will slowly reveal itself as preparation. The doors that closed were not merely refusals, they were protections. The delays that frustrated you were not denials, they were alignments. God has arranging things beyond your vision, not because he wished to test your patience for sport, but because the timing of restoration matters as much as the restoration itself. Too early, and you would have broken under the weight of what you asked for. Too late, and you might have stopped believing it was possible at all. There is a particular weariness that comes from hoping for a long time. Not loud or dramatic, it is a quiet exhaustion that makes even joy feel like effort. You smile, you function, you carry on, but something inside has learned to brace itself against disappointment. God sees that too. He knows that restoration must reach not only your circumstances, but your expectations. This year, he is not only changing what happens to you, he is changing what you believe can happen for you. You may notice that your prayers begin to shift. Where once you begged, you now ask with a steadier voice. Where once you demanded answers, you now seek wisdom. This is not because you care less, but because trust has begun to replace anxiety. Restoration often starts there, in the quiet re-education of the heart. God teaches you again how to hope without fear, how to desire without desperation, how to wait without despair. These are not small lessons, they are the foundations of a restored life. There will be moments this year when old memories resurface, and you will wonder if healing has truly taken place. Do not be alarmed. The return of memory is not the return of bondage. Sometimes God allows us to look again at what hurt us, not to reopen the wound, but to show us it no longer has the power it once held. You will realize that what once defined you no longer controls you, that what once silenced you can now be spoken without shame. This too is restoration. Do not expect everything to happen at once. God is patient, and his patience is not slowness but precision. Restoration unfolds layer by layer, like a story that must be read carefully lest its meaning be missed. Some blessings will arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, until you look back and realize how much has changed. Others will arrive with such clarity that you will have no doubt where they came from. Both are gifts, and both require gratitude. You may find yourself grieving things you thought you had already mourned. Restoration has a way of uncovering hidden sorrows, not to torment you, boo, to heal you more fully. When God restores, he does not paint over the cracks. He fills them with something stronger. He allows you to feel again, not because he wants to reopen pain, but because numbness is not the same as peace. Feeling is a sign of life returning. This year, you will also notice changes in how you relate to others. Some people will no longer fit into the restored version of our life, and that may confuse or even sadden you. But restoration is selective. God does not return everything, he returns what is necessary. What falls away is often what would have limited you in the next season. Trust him enough to let go without bitterness. What remains will be lighter, truer, and more aligned with who you are becoming. There is a temptation, when one has waited a long time, to rush the process once things begin to improve. You may feel an urgency to make up for lost time, to seize every opportunity, to ensure that nothing good slips away again. But restoration is not a race. God is not restoring you so that you can exhaust yourself all over again. He is teaching you a different rhythm, one that includes rest not as a reward, but as a way of living. This year is not, lie about what you gain, but about how you carry it. You will begin to understand that rest is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of trust. Even when challenges arise, and they will, you will find that they no longer shake you as deeply. The ground beneath your feet feels firmer now, not because life has become easier, but because your foundation has been strengthened. This is the miracle of restoration. The storm may still come, but it no longer defines the weather of your soul. There will be days when doubt whispers that this is all temporary, that joy is fragile, that peace cannot last. Those whispers are echoes of old fears, not prophecies of the future. God is not teasing you with restoration only to withdraw it again. He is faithful, and faithfulness is not a moment. Act, it is a sustained commitment. What he begins, he completes, not hurriedly, but thoroughly. As the year unfolds, you may notice a growing sense of purpose returning, not the frantic ambition of earlier years, but a quieter, steadier calling. You will feel drawn toward things that nourish rather than drain you, toward work that aligns with your values, toward service that flows from Sion rather than obligation. Restoration reorders desire. It teaches you to want what gives life, not merely what impresses others. You might also discover that forgiveness becomes easier, not because the past was insignificant, but because it no longer holds you hostage. Forgiveness is one of the most profound forms of restoration, not because it excuses what was wrong, but because it releases you from carrying its weight. This year, God may invite you to lay down grievances you have grown accustomed to holding, not as a loss, but as a relief. Do not be surprised if gratitude begins to appear in unexpected places. You will find yourself thankful not only for what has been restored, but for what was lost, because you will finally see how it shaped you. Gratitude does not deny pain, it redeems it. It allows you to look at your story honestly and still call it good, not because every chapter was pleasant, but because the author was present throughout. There is still more unfolding than you can see right now. Restoration often works beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Roots are growing even when the soil looks unchanged. Trust that God is working in the hidden places of your life, the ones you rarely speak about, the ones you have learned to manage rather than heal. This year, those places too are being touched, slowly, deliberately, lovingly. You may feel moments of holy anticipation, a sense that something is aligning, that doors are beginning to open, that conversations are shifting, that opportunities are drawing closer. Hold these moments gently. Do not clutch them in fear, and do not dismiss them in disbelief. They are signs, not guarantees of ease, but reminders that God is active and attentive. He has not forgotten your name, nor the prayers you prayed when hope felt fragile. As you move forward, resist the urge to measure restorations solely by external success. Some of the most profound restorations are invisible to others. The return of peace, the quieting of anxiety, the renewal of faith, the courage to trust again. These are victories that may never be applauded, but they transform everything else. This year, God is doing work that will echo far beyond what can be immediately seen. There will still be questions you cannot answer, and that is not a failure of faith. Faith does not require complete understanding. It requires willingness, a willingness to walk forward even when the full map is not yet visible, trusting that the one who guides you sees the whole journey. Restoration does not mean that mystery disappears. It means that mystery no longer frightens you. And so you stand at the threshold of a year, unlike the ones before it, not because it will be free of difficulty, but because it will be marked by renewal. D is not merely repairing what was broken, he is redefining what is possible. Your story is not looping back to an old chapter, it is moving forward into something deeper, steadier, and more whole. And as this year continues to unfold, you will begin to realize that what is being restored is not only what you lost, but who you are becoming in the presence of a God who makes all things new, and in the quiet spaces between expectation and fulfillment, you will find yourself learning again how to wait without fear, how to hope without anxiety, how to walk without rushing, sensing that even now there is more being prepared just beyond what you can see, more alignment taking place, more healing settling into the corners of your life where you once assumed nothing could grow, and you may notice that your heart, once guarded and cautious, is beginning to soften again, not into vulnerability without wisdom, but into a strength that comes from knowing you are held, guided and restored step by step, moment by moment, as God continues to work in ways both seen and unseen, shaping this year into something that will reveal its meaning more clearly as you keep moving forward. Forward, Discove. Ring that restoration is not a single moment you can point to and say, there, that is where everything changed, but a long obedience of grace, unfolding day by day as you learn to live from a place of trust rather than tension. You will wake some mornings surprised by how light your chest feels, as though an invisible weight has been lifted while you slept, and other mornings you will feel the old heaviness trying to return, only to realize it no longer fits you the way it once did. Even the struggle is different now, less cruel, less consuming, as though it has lost its authority over your inner life. There will be an increasing clarity in your decisions. What once confused you endlessly will begin to sort itself out, not because life has suddenly become simple, but because your priorities have been quietly rearranged. Restoration sharpens discernment. You will sense more quickly what is aligned, with peace, and what is not, what draws you closer to God and what pulls you into unnecessary striving. This clarity will feel like wisdom earned rather than knowledge borrowed, and it will guide you gently but firmly away from paths that once drained you. You may notice that you are no longer compelled to explain yourself as much. There is a strange freedom that comes when you stop needing constant validation, when you no longer feel the urgency to justify your choices or prove your worth. Restoration anchors identity. You will find yourself content to be misunderstood by some, knowing that God understands you fully. This is not indifference, it is maturity. The quiet confidence of someone who knows where their value truly comes from. There will be moments when joy arrives unexpectedly. Small and unannounced, catching you off guard. A simple conversation, a quiet walk, a moment of laughter that surprises you with its sincerity. These are not distractions from restoration, they are signs of it. Joy is often the evidence that healing has taken root. It appears not as constant excitement, but as a steady warmth that makes even ordinary days feel meaningful. At times, you may look back at who you were and feel a mixture of tenderness and sorrow. You will recognize the effort it took just to survive, the courage required to keep believing when belief felt thin. Do not rush past that reflection. Honor the version of yourself that endured when there was little reassurance and even less clarity. Restoration does not erase the past. It integrates it, allowing you to carry your story without being defined by it. As your inner world becomes more settled, you may notice changes in how you face uncertainty. Where once the unknown triggered anxiety, it now awakens curiosity. This shift is subtle but profound. It signals that fear is loosening its grip, replaced by a growing confidence that whatever lies ahead will be met with grace sufficient for the moment. Restoration does not promise certainty, it promises companionship, the assurance that you will not face the future alone. You may also experience a renewed sensitivity to beauty. Things that once escaped your notice will begin to draw your attention again. The quiet persistence of nature, the resilience of people, the small mercies that punctuate each day. This sensitivity is not sentimentality, it is a restored awareness of goodness in a world that often trains us to expect disappointment. God is recalibrating your vision, teaching you to see with hope rather than suspicion. There will be seasons this year when progress feels slow, almost imperceptible. Do not mistake stillness for stagnation. Some of the most important work God does happens beneath the surface, where growth cannot be measured by visible results. Just as roots deepen before branches extend, your restoration may be strengthening you internally before manifesting outwardly. Trust the process even when evidence feels scarce. You may find yourself drawn back to practices you once neglected, prayer that is less formal and more honest, reflection that invites truth rather than judgment, moments of silence that feel nourishing rather than empty. These practices will not feel like obligations but like homecomings, reminders that your relationship with God was never meant to be maintained through effort alone, but through presence and openness. Restoration renews intimacy. There may also be confrontations you can no longer avoid, not because you are looking for conflict, but because peace now matters more than avoidance. Restoration brings courage, the quiet kind that speaks truth without aggression and listens without defensiveness. You will begin to address what you once tolerated, not from bitterness, but from self-respect shaped by grace. This courage will feel unfamiliar at first, but it will grow as you trust it. You might notice that your capacity for compassion expands. Having been restored yourself, you will recognize brokenness in others without feeling threatened by it. Empathy will replace judgment. Understanding will soften frustration. This does not mean you will excuse harmful behavior, but that you will respond from a place of wholeness rather than woundedness. Restoration makes room for love that is both discerning and generous. There will be opportunities this year that invite you to step forward again, perhaps into roles or responsibilities you once felt unqualified for or too tired to attempt. You may hesitate, remembering past failures or disappointments, but restoration does not erase risk. It redefines it. You will step forward not because you are certain of success, but because you trust that obedience is worthwhile regardless of outcome. This trust is itself a form of victory. At times, you may feel a gentle grief for the years that seemed lost, for the time spent waiting, for the energy consumed by worry and doubt. Let that grief come without fear. It is part of the healing. God does not rush you past your emotions, He walks with you through them. And as you grieve, you will also notice gratitude rising alongside it, a recognition that even the waiting shaped you into someone capable of receiving restoration with humility rather than entitlement. You may begin to understand that restoration is not about reclaiming control, but about relinquishing it. The more you release the need to manage outcomes, the more space you create for God to work freely. This surrender will not feel like defeat. It will feel like relief, like setting down a burden you did not realize you were still carrying. Restoration lightens the soul by teaching it where responsibility truly lies. There will be conversations that bring closure where none existed before. Words that were never spoken may finally find voice, not always directly, but within your own heart. Closure does not always require explanation or apology from others. Sometimes it comes when you accept that understanding. NG is not the same as agreement. Restoration allows you to move on without needing everything to make sense. As the year progresses, you may notice that your faith feels less performative and more personal. You will care less about appearances and more about authenticity. This shift will free you from comparison, from measuring your journey against others, from assuming that someone else's pace, our path, should be your own. Restoration personalizes faith, grounding it in relationship rather than ritual alone. There will be moments when you feel prompted to give, not out of obligation but out of overflow. Time, attention, kindness, resources, all offered freely, without fear of scarcity. This generosity is not reckless. It is rooted in the confidence that what you give away is not your last, because God is your source. Restoration teaches abundance, not as accumulation, but as trust. You may also encounter resistance, both internal and external. Old patterns do not disappear quietly, and not everyone will understand the changes taking place within you. Some may prefer the version of you that was easier to predict or control. This can be painful, but it is also clarifying. Restorati refines relationships, revealing which ones can grow with you, and which ones were tied to a season that has ended. There will be a growing sense of alignment between what you believe and how you live. Hypocrisy will feel increasingly uncomfortable, not because you have become harsh with yourself, but because integrity now matters more than image. You will seek consistency, not perfection, Aloe. Wing grace to cover your imperfections while still pursuing honesty in your choices. Restoration integrates belief and behavior. You may find yourself praying differently, less focused on changing circumstances and more attentive to changing your response to them. This is not resignation, it is wisdom. You will realize that while you cannot control every situation, you can choose how you show up. Within it, restoration empowers you to act from conviction rather than reaction. As trust deepens, patience will take on a new meaning. Waiting will no longer feel like wasted time, but like active participation in God's timing. You will learn to recognize the difference between delay and denial, between preparation and postponement. This discernment will guard your heart against despair and impulsiveness alike. There may be moments of unexpected laughter, the kind that feels healing in itself, releasing tension you did not know you were holding. Do not dismiss these moments as trivial. Laughter can be a sign that joy has found its way back into the deeper places of your soul. Restoration restores the ability to delight, to be present without guarding every emotion. You will begin to see your story differently, not as a series of setbacks punctuated by brief successes, but as a coherent journey shaped by purpose, even when the purpose was hidden. This reframing does not minimize pain, it contextualizes it. You will see that the chapters you once wished to skip were necessary for the depth you now carry. There will be an increasing sense that you are being led rather than pushed. Decisions will feel less frantic, choices less pressured. You will sense guidance not as an external force demanding obedience, but as an internal alignment inviting trust. Restoration replaces coercion with cooperation, fear with faith. You may notice that your prayers of gratitude begin to outnumber your prayers of request. This does not mean you no longer have needs. It means you have begun to recognize how faithfully they are being met, often in ways you did not anticipate. Gratitude will become a posture rather than a reaction, shaping how you interpret each day. As you continue walking through this year, you may sense that restoration is preparing you not only for personal peace, but for meaningful contribution. What you you have learned, endured, and healed from will become a source of wisdom for others. You will not need to force this. It will happen naturally, as people recognize the steadiness you carry and are drawn to it. There will be moments when you are tempted to look ahead anxiously, wondering how long this season will last, whether restoration can truly endure. When that temptation arises, return to the present. Restoration lives in the now, in daily faithfulness, rather than distant guarantees. God meets you here, not in imagined futures or remembered pasts, but in this moment where grace is sufficient. You may feel a renewed sense of calling, not necessarily dramatic or public, but deeply personal. A sense that your life matters, that your choices ripple outward in ways you may never fully see. Restoration awakens purpose, reminding you that you are part of something larger than your immediate circumstances, woven into a story that continues to unfold. And so you continue, step by step, not rushing, not retreating, but walking with a growing awareness that this year is shaping you as much as it is blessing you, that restoration is not a destination you arrive at and leave behind, but a way of living that deepens as you trust it. And as you move forward, you will keep discovering new layers of healing, new dimensions of peace, new invitations to rest in the assurance that God is still at work, still attentive, still restoring in ways that will become clearer as you keep going, attentive to the quiet movements of grace that mark each day, and open to the unfolding work that has not yet revealed its full measure. And so, as this journey of restoration reaches its fullness, you will come to understand that what God has done this year is far greater than repairing what was broken or returning what was lost. He has reshaped your vision, steadied your heart, and reintroduced you to a way of living rooted in trust rather than fear. You will see that restoration was never meant to rush you back into the old patterns that exhausted you, but to lead you forward into a life marked by peace, discernment, and quiet strength. What once felt like delay will reveal itself as wisdom. What once felt like loss will stand as preparation. And what once felt like silence will be understood as God working deeply, patiently, and faithfully. You will not emerge merely relieved but renewed, not merely surviving but anchored, carrying a faith that has been tested, refined, and made resilient. And as you look ahead, you will do so without desperation or haste, confident that the same God who restored you will continue to guide you, sustain you, and complete the work He has begun, walking with you into every tomorrow with purpose, grace, and an unshakable promise of life made whole